Legends, I believe that the operation was a success, and now we await the results with much trepidation. Hi! Hello! Hello, Knight! Hello, Lazarius, welcome! Hello, Mage! Hello, Lurkers and Vault Watchers! I hope you are all having a good week. I hope you're having a good Thursday. I hope you are ready for the weekend. I am ready. Are you not working? Are the connections? No, connections should be good. Did I miss it? Let me try. Where'd it go? Why is it not working? What's going on? Here, let me try reconnecting it. Here, let me try restarting it. Let me see if that does better. Okay, 1 second. So, while I'm doing that, okay, so, yesterday, I went in, I did a memory test, 2 passes, everything seemed to go okay there, and then I went in and I replaced my power supply. I completely took the old one out, put in another one that I had, and we're gonna see how this does. I have been just so stressed out this evening, just like convinced that it's gonna crash again. That it somehow did not do the results that we wanted, and we're gonna see the same thing happen as before. Ready for the weekend. We have our first viewing of the house scheduled. That I'm not prepared for. It's okay, son. It's okay, Mage. You've been working hard, and I'm sure it's gonna go great. I understand the stress, but believe that I believe. And hello, Sonic. I'm sorry that people have PTSD. This sounds like it was crazy. So yeah, I really wish there was just like some magic green checkbox that was like, congratulations, you fixed the problem and everything is good now and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But you know, the real frustrating thing about it is it's like 5 to 10 days between crashes. Hello, Standing. Happy Thursday. Yeah, get your groove on. It's almost the weekend. So, you know, until we get to, like, if we go 5 days without a crash, that's a good sign. If we go 2 weeks without a crash, that's a good sign. But it's really not for like a month that we can really start to be, you know, confident that whatever the hell has been going on is actually over and done with, and we can start to move on with our lives. So that's really frustrating, and I'm not a fan of that, but we're gonna see what it says. On sort of the other side, pre-orders were open for Switch 2 and people were met with, oh, that's fun. Oh, that's annoying. Until you see the crash, you don't know if it's fixed or not. Exactly. It is honestly exactly that. It is Schrodinger's crash. Until it is observed, I have no idea if it's going to happen again or not. And technically, if I don't observe it, which is the desired outcome, there's always a possibility that it's going to show up again, and I have no way to know until never. But, you know, if it doesn't happen for a long time, I think it would be fair to assume that if things start happening again, it's an unrelated reason. But who fucking knows? I understand that people are excited for the Switch too. It kind of bothers me that it's like, all of this ire and outcry and protest on the internet, and then pre-orders open and the sales flood in so fast that the website crashes. Kind of just tells Nintendo that as long as they, plug their ears and don't listen to what people say, they're gonna make all the money in the world anyway. That's annoying. That honestly kind of annoys me. The whole vote with your wallet thing is bullshit. It's not true. It's not a thing. The sort of scalpers inflate the initial numbers to. That's also true. That's true. And then people get freaked out because of low availability and become more desperate to get their hands on a copy and will pay the scalper's price, and it's ugly. It's an ugly cycle of bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm swearing a lot. On that subject, I want to thank you guys. I want to say thank you because I feel like for the past month or so, a lot of the streams have been opening with me just like updating about the computer, inventing and stressing, and you guys keep coming back, and that means a lot to me. I promise I'm trying to get this solved, and once it does, we'll move on and we'll be happier, and it'll be a more relaxed time and place again. On the subject though of portable hardware, I was hanging out in Bora's stream a little bit last night after doing the heart surgery on my computer, and talking with him and some of his chat about the possibility of, will take far more than stress venting to scare me. I appreciate that. I can do far worse. So yeah, I was sort of explaining the idea of using, a Rogue or a Steam Deck or some sort of handheld PC as a streaming device. And they were a little pessimistic, shall we say, about the prospect of it. AMD encoding is not really as good as NVIDIA for streaming purposes. I have seen a few videos. I have seen anecdotal evidence of people using the Rogue Ally as a streaming device, doing pretty much the exact thing that I have planned to do, right? So take my PC, plug it through a capture card into the Rogue, and then send that on to you guys. They were not trying to run VTube Studio and all the other peripheral programs, so the load on the Rogue is not necessarily as high as what I would be trying to do. But it did seem to be able to receive the capture data and run the stream quite efficiently. But yeah, Boro and his crew were not particularly optimistic that it would be able to sort of do everything that I would want it to. Which got me onto the category of looking at mini PCs, which from what I could see in sort of brief research last night is essentially if you take a laptop and then strip it down to just the computer components, right? So there's no battery, there's no screen, there's no keyboard, no trackpad, no interfacing at all. It is just the computer parts in a very small box. We're talking like a few inches on each dimension. And then it just has a shit ton of ports on the outside so that you can plug all the devices that you want into it. So I don't know. I'm looking at it and I could see how the mini PC potentially has the higher performance capability for the weird particular use case that I have, right? I think the downside to it is that it is far less. It is equally portable, right? In that you can just put it in a backpack and take it wherever you want. Mac Mini, essentially a similar thing. I think in some cases even smaller than what the Mac Mini is, but a very similar idea. And then everything is, very sort of solid and transportable, which is a big problem that I'm having with the Mini Tower is, as much as the dimensions are transportable, the parts were not really built to be moved around a lot. So the jostling is definitely a concern still. But yeah, the sort of downside compared to a handheld PC, right? A Steam Deck, a Rogue Ally, Lenovo, etc., is you have to dock it somewhere, right? It doesn't have its own battery, it doesn't have a power supply, it doesn't have any interfacing. So you have to put it on a surface and plug it in and hook it up to mouse and keyboard and monitor and everything else that you want, because it doesn't come with any of those things built in. So that's part of how they get it to be cheaper than a laptop, is they're not including any of those elements. So I'm exploring the possibility, and I'm kind of weighing the pros and cons of, like, do I want something that would be more standalone capable? Or would I be okay with something that's potentially a little bit more performant, but really needs to be hooked into a place, which is the vast majority of use cases that I was expecting to use the Ally for anyway? I don't know. It is an interesting option. And then, of course, there's the whole spectrum of how much any of these would cost, right? Because if I get a handheld PC, I gotta buy the dock for it, right? None of this is gonna work if I don't buy a dock. The mini PC obviously doesn't require one, so that's cheaper. But then I'm also looking at something costing as low as $400 up to like $1,300, right? You can get ones with dedicated graphics units and all the bells and whistles, get it like a high-end laptop, but then you're also paying high-end laptop prices again. Maybe a little bit cheaper because you don't have, the screen and everything, but, you're starting to see far lower returns on cost. So it could go from cheaper than the handheld PCs to way more expensive, depending on what you want to get and how powerful you demand it to be. So I don't know. I wish. I feel like this would be a more fun sort of thing to shop around and research if I weren't dealing with the PC being fucky at the same time. And I have been kind of considering, like, if we can get the PC back up and running reliably again, how much do I want this? I think I still do. I think I would still want a computer that I can take with me much more easily and without concern of it, getting damaged in the process of traveling. It's probably still something that I would want to do. The whole dual box stream setup, I think, would still be nice. It wouldn't be as necessary if the PC is running reliably, but I could see it still being something worth having set up and having available. I don't know. It's a lot. Streaming games would probably benefit from the dual setup. It absolutely would. A lot of games I can get running very nicely on my desktop, benefits of a 4070 and all that. Give me 1 second to open my window. There you go. It's actually getting pretty warm in here. But at the same time, the trying to do that in addition to running the stream on the same computer, something has to take a hit, right? Something lowers frame rate, can't run as nice, etc., right? Like Alan Wake 2, we had to make some pretty hard concessions to the overall graphic quality, the maximum graphic quality, to get that to stream well. And it still looked really good, but it could have looked better. So, I don't know. Like, it's not, the biggest problem, but it is something worth considering. Like, if we could get the setup, it would be nice. And then, I have the stream setup that I can take with me, and I can stream on the go, on the road, much more easily. Even if I don't have access to, like, all my nice games and everything. So, I do think I want to get the machine, the secondary machine, the portable machine, regardless. The big question is really just, like I said, how much do I want it to be something that I can just grab it and use it? A handheld. Or do I want it to be, potentially more performant, but I really have to dock it somewhere and set it up? So that's where I am. That's what's going on in Kaiga's dumb corner. But yeah, I've just been kind of stressed out today, like just watching my computer like a hawk, watching for any signs that something's wrong with it. And of course, I don't know. I hope you guys are doing better. I'm sorry about the Switch pre-orders. I don't know if you got yours, Sonic, but hopefully it went well, or at least you had fun watching the chaos ensue. Mage, I hope the house showing goes well this weekend. Like I said, I believe it'll be fine. And for everyone else, I hope you're all having a good week. I hope it has not been too stressful. I hope the weather has been nice for you and you've been getting to enjoy it some. I managed to get out on my bike yesterday, have a nice ride around. So that was definitely helpful. It's always nice to just get out of the house a little bit and get moving. It really helps to sort of, I don't know, stabilize the brain, I find. Trying to think that I don't think that I feel like Oblivion just kind of blasted any other game news out of the water this week. That was kind of the big thing. I am somewhat convinced that they were using the Oblivion remaster as a test run to see how Elder Scrolls 6 could potentially do in Unreal. I have to feel like after Starfield, they looked at their in-house engine and went, yeah, this isn't going to work anymore. This is not keeping up in the modern day, and it's not going to benefit us to try and keep it functioning long term. So let's try with Unreal Engine and see if that's going to be good for us. And I feel like the test has been a success, so it would not surprise me at all if we see Elder Scrolls 6 built in Unreal 5. I think there's a good chance of that. Just give me a second to pour some tea, and then we're gonna finish up this artwork. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I think it's in a good spot. There's just a little bit that I want to do to like finish up some little details on it, whatnot, and sort of get it into a nice final position. Okay, we did flip it backwards. I remember because we had that whole thing going on with the decal. Oh, I fucked that up. All right. 1 second. Huion got confused. Oh wow. You really got confused about what was where. Okay, well, we're good now. Yeah, the one thing that I'm still seeing a little bit of that gives me some cause for concern, but I don't think is actually related, is I still see some window flickering. Like, not the entire screen is flickering, but like, it's like windows, individual windows are sort of very briefly getting confused about where they're supposed to be on the monitor landscape and try to reposition themselves for like just a frame, and then they snap back. I've been seeing that for a while. I asked on the VBridger forums because it seemed to happen the most often when they had VTube Studio and VBridger open. So it's like, hey, do you guys know like what this is? And they didn't know. They didn't think it was related to their programs. So I just want to... But it's also predates all of these problems by quite a long time. So I don't think it's immediately related. I just saw it and I was like, oh god, please no. Not like this. Okay, I just want to add a little bit of Fresnel lighting in a few places here because I feel like we're losing some of the interesting shapes. To the background slightly. Okay, that looks a little bit better. And then, like, this is just a little sort of messy and scrungly. I feel like there was something going on this weekend that I was excited for. Or something that was happening, but now I can't think of what it might have been. I know the Monster Hunter spring event started, so I definitely got to jump in and do the farming for that. Maybe we can do some Monster Hunter against it. That would be one that's really beneficial to have the dual box set up for. It's just like, main tower, you play Monster Hunter. Little guy, you do everything else. Because we can get Monster Hunter to stream pretty decently, and I do think they've improved like the overall performance of the game. Right, just sort of across the board, it's less demanding for people and for machines, but it is still a big ask. And we typically have to like turn things off and disable things and, you know, make concessions so that it will work well. So if we didn't have to do that, that would be nice. Okay. I want to knock this back just a little bit. I feel like we could get something that looks a little bit better along this back here. We can like leave the brightest edge as that sort of Fresnel lighting, but we can just sort of knock back the overall thickness, have a bit of a smoother color gradient, right? And then maybe come in here with some of our brighter tone and do a little bit of like this move. There we go. Yeah, it looks like we got a little bit to clean up in here, right? Just a little. Just a tip. Yeah, there we go. You see how much nicer that feels? Like it just has that little extra volume, that sense of depth. I'm gonna bring the Fresnel around a little bit on this side, just so that it has a bit more of like a volumetric lighting feel. Good. Alright, and then we're just gonna do the same thing on the other side. That's on that like backfill layer, I think. That's why it's not working the same way. Yeah, I like that. It feels good. Feels right. Okay, so then we just gotta find this. A little bit back here. Good. There we go. And then we're just gonna clean up this contact point a little bit. Good. I will say at the very least, work has not been stressing me out. I thought it was going to be a lot more stressful. You know, we lost our lead recently. They departed the company, or they were let go. I should specify that. They were let go. But, you know, I was a lot more sort of worried about how we were going to deal with that. It's been going okay. And I've spent most of this week just kind of writing up documentation, everything, because that's been kind of a blind spot on the company, on our team. Tribal knowledge is a hell of a drug. But then, of course, you know, somebody leaves. And it's like, oh, does anyone else know how to do what they did? No? Uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah, that at least has been going okay. I think we're doing all right. At the very least, it's given me a little more time to focus on some other things and even sneak a little bit of drawing in. Still gotta get that summer outfit ready to go. Okay, I think we're just about done. I'm really nitpicking this at this point, but I want it to be nice. I want it to be good. It's just that little bit of Fresnel, right? On a few areas. There we go. Just to help, you know, add a little bit of variety, a little bit of pop. There we go. All right. Okay. 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 Kaiga. Put the drawing down. Put the drawing down. It's good. It's fine. We did what we wanted to do. It's good. Yeah, I think that about does it. What do you guys think? I think that hits a pretty good mark. And then we can get rid of our reference images. This is right, isn't it? Oh no, it is flipped. Oh my god, I'm a fuckhead. There we go. I was looking, I was like, it feels backwards. It was backwards. Okay. You know what the last thing I want to do? Just to try and sort of bring it in line with the concept? One little highlight right there. I think we'll get exactly what we need. I think that just adds a little bit of illumination to the eye that was missing from before. I said myself. Cool. Alright. I'm calling it good there. I'm calling that done. Which means we got one final thing to do. I am back. Clouds are making way for me. I'm coming home, sweet home. Good. Good, good, good. And now we save. And as much as I want to let this one be and sort of let it rest and have its moment in the sun, we do have the next one to get going on. We're going to make sure the time lapse is turned on. And then we're gonna see. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. I have a general idea of like what I would like this one to be doing pose-wise. Oh, let me grab my reference too while we're sort of getting set up. But we're gonna have to do a little bit of experimenting just to sort of see like what we're gonna do. Alright, let me... Jeez, where's... I always appreciate when people have, like, a channel on the Discord of... here's... here's where my character sheet is located. It just makes things so much easier to work with. No. I wonder if they deleted their Twitter, which would honestly be fair and a good idea. Alright, here we go. This should work. Sorry, 1 second, chat. I'm just trying to find my reference material, which admittedly should have done before the stream. But it's too late for that. There are a couple of things about Blue Sky that I'm not as much of a fan on. Opening stuff in new tabs is kind of a pain in the butt. Search functionality is okay, but there's some stuff about it that isn't quite as good. I don't know. In some ways, I feel like there's not as much going on Blue Sky as there is going on Twitter. But that's kind of a nice thing, right? There's not like as much craziness. There's not as much toxicity. It feels more laid back, and people are just kind of like posting artwork and maybe chatting about stuff. It feels a lot less like inundating. There we go. All right. Don't need that. Why is the image so small? I guess the other ones are so big. Okay. All right. we're gonna play the guess the subject game again. So I hope you guys are We'll see how fast you guys can get this time. I feel like last time was pretty quick. Okay, so that's kind of idea number one, right? We got the head on the knuckles kind of pose. And then the character would kind of go like that. So that's one. Number two, I think would be more kind of like, would be sort of the same thing. And the hands are a bit more open. And then idea number three was, same sort of general head pose, but then more of like forming a heart with the hands. I went back to when we were young and while we were free. I suppose it would help to have all three of them side by side to sort of judge the ideas, right? I know it's super rough, but is there any sort of opinion that you guys are leaning towards? One, I guess we'll do 1, 2, or 3. I know some of it is probably going to depend on like the character and what feels the most like appropriate to them, but just call it a gut sense right now. He's running around grabbing boxes. No worries. So I got just a couple like really rough ideas of maybe what the character or what the pose would be. right? We got 1, 2, and 3 here. So it's just kind of, are any of these like standing out to you as being a little bit more interesting or a little bit nicer? And then 3's doing like the... 3 feels... No, 3's alright. It's a little less relaxed, like the hands can't support the weight in this pose nearly as well, but it's also very like cutesy. I think 1 and 2 stand out the most. I agree. I'm leaning towards 1. I feel like 2 kind of could be like misconstrued. I feel like 1 sort of feels the most relaxed, right? Like even though the fingers are sort of curled in. Hey Keplu, happy Thursday. Welcome in. It's good to see ya. How you doing? Sheepies. Where's the sheepies? Okay. So I think what we'll do, right, is we'll sort of keep the overall pose. I do want to lean it just a little bit, right? So this shoulder will be a little bit more exposed. And then we'll sort of take this arm and like angle it down. To also add a small fragment of yandere. That's kind of what I was leaning away from. I was like, if I do this the wrong way, it could start to feel more, as you say, yandere or menacing or like psychotic, which would not be completely off base, but it's not really what I want to do with the drawing. Ooh, what kind of art project? If you feel like art taxing, we always have the Discord channel where you can just drop a link to it. So yeah, just a little bit of a, not even like a 7/8 pose, like what's up from that? Would be 3/4 and then 7/8, so that would be like 9/16. You know, very ever so slightly off center. I feel like I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna flip it because I'm lazy and I don't wanna I don't wanna deal with, I feel like the right side is a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna be lazy and flip it to the other side. Drawing the magic of seas fighting, but this will be on paper, my own be digital. Oh, cool! Mixed media collab. That's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing when it's done. I guess if you do want to share a whip, there are means. I don't mind a good art tax. Man, I don't know what happened. I woke up today and I felt like I hadn't slept. I was just like, I'm not ready for today. It's been a very low energy day. Which I think then, you know, you ever get that feeling where like the hearing seems to drop out on one side? Like I can still hear it just fine. It's like a weird balance thing. don't care for that. I don't like that feeling. Oh, yes, I hate... It's like, I didn't get enough sleep. I'm tired. I got too much sleep and I'm tired. It's like, what? That is one thing that I appreciate about, like, batteries, right? As much as battery technology can be a massive pain in the ass, it's like, here's 0% and here's full percent. And if you put it on the charger for this long, it'll be at 100%. It's not going to go above that. But you know where it's going to be. And organic systems are just kind of like, I don't know, man. Your white tales about when your ears sound plugged and the ringing gets louder is high blood pressure. Huh. Interesting. Well, add it to the fucking list. Not the dark, only in the beating heart. There we go. Alright, we got the pose a little bit better now, right? It's always my right ear. See, that's kind of weird too. Like, you'd think if it would be blood pressure, it wouldn't be like focused into a specific ear. Who knows how these freaking bodies work, right? Why must pigtails be so annoying? Because hair is complicated. Shadows in the city. I'm a stranger to myself. All these streets, I'm someone else. And see, then you're like, okay, well, if hair's complicated, I'll just make my character bald, and then I won't need to worry about ever drawing hair. But then you gotta worry about drawing an accurate cranium, and that's also complicated. Yes, hair is the hardest part of drawing, aside from everything else. Wise don't even know how many years we're just like, ow. Apologize, but it's too late. Yeah. Well, I feel like organic bodies are even more complicated, because one of the things I was, bemoaning about the whole computer situation is, to have a tool that would be able to tell you exactly what breaks when a computer goes wrong, right? You would need to have some system that is monitoring everything that the computer is doing all the time and knows exactly what everything on the computer should be doing, and then can spot, hey, that thing didn't do what it was supposed to be doing right here. there's your problem. Right? Otherwise, you're just kind of dealing with whatever is able to, you know, send a signal that it stopped doing the thing that it was supposed to be doing. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was the cause, just that it suffered a problem. And organic bodies are just like, I hurt now. Why do you hurt? I don't know, I do. Make it stop. You're just like, little shit. Enjoy the fun fact that we actually have a blind spot in our vision at all times that the brain just copy pastes automatically, so we never know. Oh, do not. The amount that the brain like extrapolates senses. Like, it's not just, oh, you know, there's a blind spot in the center of the vision where all the optic nerve needs to fill through, so there's no, I can never remember. I think it's rods in the center of the retina. I think it's cones on the periphery. The vast majority of your vision at any given time is blurry. It's only like in a very small area that you actually have clear vision. And the brain is just like constantly flicking the eyes around to different spots, taking new snapshots and compiling it all into a clear image. It's just doing that. It's just doing it all the time. You're welcome. And then some people are just like, yeah, my eyes are fucked and I have no clear vision ever. It's like, well, I can't help you with that one. And then poor owls don't even have round eyeballs, so they have no peripheral vision. So if they want to get like a clear thing, they got to do that thing where they like bob and weave to get a clear view of an object. Which is cute as hell, but must be inconvenient. Glowing windows in the building through the elevated tree. See 1,000 different stories, faces and their names. Forget why I came here, and I don't get why I stay. And I wonder if he knows. Birds are wild. Birds are wild creatures. Then you're like, yeah, these were dinosaurs at one point. You're like, what the fuck? An eagle tried to kill my elderly neighbor with a fish. What? It like dropped it like a torpedo? Yeah, birds can be extremely temperamental. I remember there was a figure model that would come into school sometimes. Nice lady. Had an emotional support turkey. Was actually quite friendly. We got to pet it fairly often. You had to be careful because, you know, it's a turkey. It's not exactly a big sturdy creature, but it liked to like play with your fingernails. So it would like bite at your fingernails. Not hard, but it would make like an audible clack. It's a little unnerving. Because you really do feel like that beat could hurt you if it wanted to. A 1.5 carp while flying it landed next to the neighbor who was out for a walk. Fish delivery, motherfucker. Reminds me. So I've been working on documentation, right, at work. Been updating our own like docs and whatnot, just processes and an internal knowledge base, to help train new people and whatnot. So one of my pose practice is important. Pose practice is very important. Yes. Let me finish this. I'll get back to that. So one of my unofficial tasks, one of my unofficial roles on the team, which I take very seriously, is I post a lot of memes. It's how I keep team morale up. I post little funnies and get people get a little laugh out of it. I take that part of my job somewhat seriously. So, we had been doing some stuff earlier. I had posted a meme or two. And I went back to working on the database, on the documentation rather. And I was, writing something up, and I thought I had, copied a screenshot to post into the document. And I hadn't. So when I hit Control Paste, it dropped in the last thing that had been in my clipboard, which was, it turns out, the surprise motherfucker meme from Dexter, and it just popped up in the middle of the document, and I was like, what the fuck? Thank you for the redeem. That's good tea. I like my tea when it's chilled. It's very tasty. Pose practice is honestly very important. I think it's really easy to just get into like drawing everything in a very similar pose or drawing things in a very basic pose. And just drawing a variety and keeping with it, I think, is very valuable to one's overall skill. I feel like I've been doing okay with my poses lately. Definitely with this line of not doing full body stuff, so it's falling off, or it's not been as much of a focus with the last few things. Yeah, some of the recent drawings I feel like have been doing a good job sort of exploring different things, trying different things. But yeah, practice is good. I'm getting a little lost in the weeds with this. We're trying to clean up specific details. Oh, nice. Have you guys figured out who it is yet? If you haven't, I'm honestly like, okay, well, I guess I haven't captured the likeness at all. It's bread. Yeah, okay. That's fair, I guess. My life is bread. To be fair, bread is a good way of life. I can respect that. I can abide that. Take me to the other side. There we go. Okay, I like it. I think the main thing is just going to be getting the hands to be a little less shitty. A little less shitty. Also, I feel like the forearms are still too long. What else is going to be in project at the new place? The swamp boxes. Well, good luck with that. That sounds Gordian in nature. Purple's never a bad option. At least 4 of them fell apart in the transition, 2 were already in pieces. Well, you could always combine them to make some kind of cool custom Gundam. I've seen some people do that. Those are cool. Okay, here, let's do this. Because I think more than anything, if we move the elbow pads up, I feel like that'll help some. Here, take this, scale it up a little bit, and then move it. There we go, good. And then grab you. And do like that. Okay, that feels better. I just want to sit with my head on my desk for a bit after seeing that though. It sounds like both of you should sit with your head on the desk for a little bit. There we go. Okay, then we got fingers going like that, and fingers going like that, and fingers going like that. Yeah, good. Skew this out just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That feels pretty good. I think we can work with that. say devious is reasonably appropriate. Like warm, caring, but also room for mischief. I feel like we can work with that for sure. I'm trying to remember, is there... Let me check our blue sky again. I just want to see if there's a better reference as to how that actually works. I think it's just... Oh no, there is a shirt. There is a shirt in there. Oh, okay, that's really helpful. Perfect. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. So that person would be very happy with mischief. Have you figured out who it is, Mage? I really hope so, because it's like there's only... I feel like it has to be... It's as obvious as it's going to get at this point. I've known for a little bit. Okay, good. Thank God. No one ever wants to play the guessing game. That's not true. You played the guessing game with Jen. There we go. Okay, and then a little bit more right there. Just kind of clean up that shape. Good, good, good. Okay. Okay, and then yeah, that kind of goes out that way, and then we have the darker element that's going to curve in like that. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. That's true. Okay, these are actually not quite as big. The concept depicts them a little bit bigger, but the actual model is a little bit more relaxed in here. So we'll just adjust the shape slightly, right? There's a teensy bit of a gap. They're not pressed together. Good. There you got the cross stitching. How many we got here? 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we can't see all of them because of the angle. So I feel like it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and disappear at that point. Good. There we go. Yeah, the likeness isn't quite there. It's close. Oh, you know what I'm missing? But it'll help some. Will help some. Okay, I think 2 things. 1, let's make the cheekbones a little bit thinner. It's a little bit too wide at present. A little bit low, a little bit wide, so it's not quite her look, right? And number 2, which arguably is more important, you've got the knives. Gotta get the knives in there. They're pretty narrow. They're about the same, like, base shape, root shape as human ears, which is longer. Chat, how do I be cute? If I ever find out, I will let you know. There we go. That's a bit better. That's closer. The other thing is just that she has more eyelashes, but I'm not gonna get too into those until we actually get to painting, because I'm not gonna fuss that, though there are the 2 moles that we gotta be sure to include. Burn it down, there we go. Yes, okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm starting to feel it. I feel like Ivy is just one of those like genuinely kind people. I'm just so friendly and warm. Which is always very funny to me. When people manage to piss her off, it feels like it takes effort to make Ivy mad. But once you have, it's like, no, that's your fault. You did that. That's on you. I remember I was in her stream and someone came in and asked her to just like say a line. And she just immediately was like, no, don't ask me to do that. I'm not a puppet. And I was just like, damn, okay. It's like, nope, that's on you. You crossed the line. But no, just an all-around lovely person. It is a pleasure and an honor to know. Okay, there we go. I feel like we got the likeness down much closer now. Overall sort of shape of the face and everything is feeling much better. Hello, Tishel. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. I hope you're having a good week, ready for the weekend. Yes, we finished up the drawing from Tuesday. It was just a couple of final touches. And now we're getting going on the next one, and we're hoping that nothing explodes, physically or digitally. Because the people you never see angry that you do not want to see angry is true. It is true. The people that like are generally very relaxed, very self-composed, for them to lose their composure is like, it's like how Waffle House is actually kind of a metric for the severity of a natural disaster. Because if it gets so bad that Waffle House closes, you should have evacuated by now. I'm sorry you're stressed. What's going on? I'm glad you like the art. This one took a second. Took a second to sort of figure out what we were doing, but I feel better about it now. We just had to sort of figure out what the hell we were doing. There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and flip it over. I just want to... Yep. Yep, there it is. Okay, hang on. Can take a lot of shit directed at me, but moments is directed at people I care about. Yep. I feel that. I feel that, and I respect that. Okay, so yeah, now we just gotta take the mouth. Mouth is a little off center. We're gonna bounce that over. And then the shape of the eyes is just not quite lining up, and I'm trying to decide if I just want to copy paste it and be lazy, or if I want to actually fugu fish mode. It was a beautiful visual. Thank you for that. You better not mess with my squad or I'm gonna... To be fair, if I got in a fight with somebody and they just like went wide-eyed and puffed up their cheeks and started charging at me, I'd back up. Because I don't know what they're about to do and I don't really want to find out. Exactly. Yes. Okay, that feels better. And then the last little details, we're just going to take the nose and sort of nudge it over a little bit so it's more centered, right? Again, if you just started throwing 1,000 needles at me, just like grabbed sewing needles out of your pocket and started throwing them, it's like, no, I don't care, you win. I'm out. Okay, that feels better. That feels more balanced. Okay, I think we're in a good spot with the sketch overall. How long did that take us? Maybe? No, not even an hour. I was like, maybe 40 minutes. Sick. I'm not keeping, a really close time on it or anything. It's more just a question of like, how well are we able to do this? One minor touch-up, which I'm gonna do here. So because the original concept has the booba a little bit larger and then like pressing together, I was just gonna have this, sort of be the cutoff point in the silhouette, but since there's a little bit of a gap, we'll include the rib cage underneath. So this is Ivy. This is Ivy. Lovely Miss Ivy, who we have rated a few times. Someone I dare call a friend. Not parasocially, hopefully. A funny part about you describing it as a fugu attack is my brains went to it at the same time. Puffed up aggression, the methodical, accidental cooking preparation. Please, enjoy the fish. Hitman is such a weird series. Because it is simultaneously very, like, serious and big. Boy! Like, it has sort of the grandeur of a serious game. But then also it is aware of just how like insanely silly and dumb it can be and leans so hard into it. And they have figured out how to do both of those things very seamlessly. It's honestly impressive. It's just a fish in a suit with a barcode on it. The bricks, the clown costume, you know, killing people in ironic and frankly comedic fashion. Oh god, Ducky. Blessed Ducky. You just smack someone from 30 meters with a fish, non-target killed. It's like, it's a fish. On the other hand, there was that story you told about the eagle nearly taking out your neighbor with a 1.5 foot long fish. And if I took a 1.5 foot long fish to the face, I would probably expire too. Solid Snake versus Brickfish. I give my life. I do need to flip it back still. I'm just figuring out this whole thing with the elbow pads. Imagine dying and being a ghost, seeing you died by fish, and just like, man. It's like the shades in Hades that you see their cause of death, and a lot of them are just like the most mundane bullshit. Some days it do be like that. Cod of Duty. Well, the acronym for Call of Duty is already COD. And then, of course, there was Black Ops, which everyone loved to abbreviate to COD Blops. There we go. That is true. You get a fish going at speed. That's a missile. Alright, let's go ahead and flip it back. I'm happy with where we're at. So we just gotta do a little bit more cleaning up. Right along here. Get these fingers where we want them to sit. That looks about right. Yeah. Just don't encounter the Arapaima. I don't know that one. I'm not aware. I am not aware of that fish, but I will not. God cannons. Okay, so I should look this up before I insult Mr. Information again. But I believe it is actually a thing here that we have salmon cannons to help with salmon migration. There are like essentially sort of funnels along some of the rivers that launch the fish to help them get over obstacles. Let me double check this. I feel like I saw it years ago. Yes, so there's a YouTube video from here. You know what? We'll just watch this. This is from this is from the US Department of Energy. Funk. Modern problems require modern solutions. Yes, by whoosh innovations. And ain't it fucking grand? We just have a tube. We have a magic tube and we send the salmon in the tube and launch it. And granted, it doesn't launch it like into the air, right? But it does come out with some speed. You saw the splashes. There we go. That feels pretty good. Hand's still a little bit off, but it's a good enough point that we can start from and kind of figure out what we need to do to clean it up. There we go. I wonder how well a hydraulic cannon like that would work as a water ride. I feel like people, it seems like it would be fun, but I feel like people would get in it and get very claustrophobic. I know some water slides have like tunnels and whatnot, but I know some people don't like riding the slides that have tunnels because it just gets too tight spaced and they can't handle it. I haven't been to a water park in years. Granted, they're kind of gross if you think about them too much. They're also fun. Humans have too many breakable angles that would make it a serious hazard. That's true. That's true. Yeah, you're riding down a water slide and your legs fly apart and then you're having a bad time. Okay, I feel like we're in a pretty good spot with this now. Hang on, give me 1 second. So the main thing that I'm sort of looking at and feeling and thinking and pondering is the hands are a little bit in a different position from each other, right? So I feel like we would want to have this one be a little bit more out to the side, just so that their like position relative to the chin is largely the same. But then that's going to move this forearm up and over some. You get flushed out of a water slide. How embarrassing must that be? Like, it's better than being stuck in the water slide, but I can't imagine that you're like, at that point, you're just having a bad time. And then the ride operator's like, hey, Steve, get the plunger. There we go. Okay, cool. That feels better. Yeah, I feel like water parks used to be a lot more popular and kind of fell off. I'm sure there are some still, but you definitely don't hear about them nearly as much. I feel like there was a lot of bad press that happened for a while. That probably did nothing to keep them going. And then, of course, the pandemic happened and... Yeah, exactly. Like, water parks were already kind of a petri dish. So what if we just introduce, like, a massively infectious virus into the petri dish? Okay, I think that will do. Okay, cool. All right, I want to do one last touch up, is just to make this a little bit concave, or at least, you know, level. Yeah, that'll do. And then we got this arm looking pretty good. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Right, we're just gonna clean up this little area on the bottom right here, and then we're gonna get into the drawing and coloring phase, because as always with this, I don't know, I just find trying to get really like exacting with the sketches has diminishing returns. As a lot of times I'll start getting into the paint process and go, oh, well, this needs to be revised anyway. So spending a bunch of time trying to get the sketch to feel right doesn't necessarily result in saving time later. Sometimes it does. But I think as long as I have a good sense of like what it needs to be, what it needs to look like, that's enough. Yeah, I think as long as we like make it clear that the brow is up here and that the lids are lowered, right? I feel like the eye size is correct. That looks good. That did. All right, let's get coloring. Let's get coloring. I'm also gonna shift the color of the line work a little bit more evergreen. Next park is Hunter Park. It's just Jurassic Park plus a Ren Fair. You know what I feel? I feel like a monster... Isn't there a Monster Hunter cafe in Japan somewhere? I feel like there must be. Or there was at one point. That seems like a match made in heaven that would go bankrupt in under a year. Could you imagine the food costs for a cafe that tried to serve an authentic Monster Hunter experience? Meals that fucking big? They couldn't keep it up. Alright. Since we aren't playing the guessing game anymore, go ahead and bring the ref in just so we can color sample it more easily. I'm gonna try something interesting this time around, and we'll see how it goes. We're gonna experiment with something, not just yet, but we'll fuss with it in a bit. I have an idea. I have a thought. You know, the funny thing is, I think at this shot, we don't actually get like any of the green parts of her outfit. I think it's all creams and blacks and browns. Oh, it's wonderful, ain't it? I love Theophany's entire like soundtracks for these. I'm really sad that it seems like we're not going to finish it. He got through 2 of the albums. I think he was planning to do like 4. But then he started working on Kana, which has a very good soundtrack too. I really liked the work that he did for it. But after that, I haven't heard anything about him returning to the other ones. Returning to finish the set. Which is unfortunate. It's somewhat understandable. It seems like a very demanding sort of project, but it is... I hope he comes back to it at some point. Probably should have done this part first. Da, 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 da. Go. I think I'm gonna leave the gloves off. What do you guys think? Gloves off or gloves on? Honestly, either one is completely doable and workable. I also think the leather might have gotten a little bit richer from the original concept pass. Not significantly. This is just a trick of the light. There we go. The hands resting on the face. It would frame too much with the gloves. I could see that. That's an interesting point. Alright. We'll go gloves off. See how that looks. Cool. Okay. Couple more layers of color to pull in, and then we should be good. So we need the golds, which finding an exact point of reference on it is difficult at this scale, but we'll just grab that and it should be fine. Okay, so golds are present along the trim of each of these. Like that. And then along here. Alternatively, sock puppets. We'll put a pin in that one. I don't think the elbow pads have any. No. None. Okay, and then the ribbons. Okay, and then I think we just need the leaves, the hair, and the eyes. I can't see. I'm not going to get a good sampling out of that, but we do have another image that I'll pull in a second. There we go. It was 3-point or 5-point? 3-point. This one's a 5-pointer. Good. Good. I've been watching Connor and Chris's cyclothon. They've got 2 days left after today. They're getting very close. They're like, I think they're like less than 200 kilometers to their final point in Tokyo. I don't know where exactly they're finishing, but it has been very cool watching them progress, watching them get down to, you know, through all the various parts of Honshu and Hokkaido. Very proud of the boys. I gotta figure they must be doing a lot of practice for this, because you don't just get up and decide that you are going to bike every day for hours for 2 weeks straight, right? Like, that is a serious commitment. Not just in terms of actually doing the event, but getting ready for it. But I think this is the 5th cyclothon that they've done. So at this point, it's like, yeah, no, they're down for it. They know how to do it. They're committed to it. They are prepared. Alright, get ready, chat. Don't be blinded by the beauty of the eyes. Oh, they're so pretty, though. Fuzzy pickle. Okay, and then there's a nice purple, which we're not getting a great sample of, but we can extrapolate. And then there's sort of an indigo color that shadows the top part. Like that. And I believe she has a little flecking of gold right around the pupil. We'll go back and check on that. Yes. It's actually not even a flecking, it's like a solid ring. So you can just kind of go like that. There we go. Good. That was the wrong layer. Oh no, it was the right layer. I named it wrong. Oh well. Okay, cool. That looks good. Alright, I believe aside from maybe getting a little bit of the finer detail, but I believe we have all of the colors laid in the way we want them to be. Okay, so we're going to do one more thing for the fun of it. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get rid of that fill layer. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to duplicate all of this. I'm going to drag it up here. We're going to merge it together. And then we're going to drop it on top of the line work. I like that. It helps the lines integrate a bit better to the underlying color a little bit. Gives us something a little bit more actual. So where I think it is successful is that it makes the lines a little less arbitrary, which is nice. Where it's a little less useful. And this is a bit of, you might say, a like deviation or a change in focus from how I usually do things. A lot of times what I like to do with the line work, you know, and with the shadow and highlight layers is get some information about the environmental color, right, that's coming in, and use those layers to sort of influence the available color palette that we're working with. So by doing this, we lose a little bit of that, which is why I'm going to knock down the color fill to like 50%, just so we have a little bit. We have sort of a mix of the two, I suppose. I feel like that kind of works. Okay, I do think, as much as I've been kind of not doing it up to this point, I do think we're going to want to go ahead and add some shading, some shadow layer to this one. Because I'm feeling a teensy bit flat right now. So I think we're going to go for sort of a nice spring shade sort of tone for the shadow and see how that plays. Maybe it doesn't have eyeshadow. No. She has lipstick. Doesn't have eyeshadow. Has much thicker eyelashes than I've given her so far. So we'll have to play that up a little bit. That's not too bad. You know, I was tempted to play Monster Hunter on Thursday. Fuck, today's Thursday. Well, never mind. I'm not sure it's even worth finishing that pot. The more important part of that thought, before I realize I'm a fuckhead, is there's one other drawing that I would like to try and get to before the end of the month. One more portrait. So I want to continue with Ivy's, but when is the 30th? Wednesday? Ooh, that's going to be a tight schedule. It might be belated. It might be belated like Mookie's. It's okay. It's not a big deal. There's no hard schedule that we're trying to keep. We're just trying to keep on top of stuff. Ah, what bonk? Don't bonk. No bonk. I prefer to listen to Coldplay in the original Klingon. Ooh. I don't want to listen to this one, but it does remind me of this song, which I have not listened to in a long time. Complete change of pace. I also realized I forgot to fill this hair back in, so we're just going to paint that when we get to it. There we go. I think that'll do. No, we're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna set the second copy to overlay. Set that to 50%, set that to 70%. It's a little bit softer, and I want to try one more thing. I want to go back into the blush. We're going to add some to the ears. Just like that. And then the other thing that I want to do, this is purely experimental again. We're going to take a nice sort of blue cyan. Yeah, sure, why not? No. This might be better to do as a post-process than to do right now. Yeah, let's do it later. Interesting idea, but it's not quite there yet. But we'll mess with it. Cool. Okay, that looks good. And then we'll mess with the highlighting as we need to. Okay, I like it. I think that's enough prep time. Let's get painting. Alrighty, Nate. Appreciate you hanging out. I hope you get some really good rest. And I hope you have a really good start to the weekend. See you there, Choom. Everyone say goodnight. It's such a, like, it's such an easy tactic, but I love when soundtracks have, like, motifs that carry from song to song. And create sort of like a connective tissue or a through line throughout the entire project. bring a little bit of this green tone into the shadows, right? Kind of get that like foresty backlight. Yeah. Bounce a little bit of color off of the hair. Pale cloth is a very challenging thing. Like if you want to paint it properly, quote unquote asterisk, a lot of times white clothing to render it realistically, you're going to be picking up colors from all over the place because it's just going to be bouncing refracted light from just everything in the environment. It's going to be picking up blues and greens and reds and whatever else is sort of in the environment. Which can be very fun, but it also requires a lot of sort of awareness of the lighting and the environment in it. So I might lean into that a little bit for this piece. Just sort of use it as a brief little practice in local lighting. See how that goes. Da, 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 da. It's a bit of a deviation from some of the last ones that we were doing that were very just sort of focused on like their albedo, right? We weren't so much concerned with like setting the character in an environment and considering how that would affect the surfaces and the tone. Western Hall, did you get my living? Right, so we get a little bit of extra light bounced off of the skin. It's a bit more refractive than the leather would be. Right, so that's going to be just a little bit brighter in its overall tone. Sort of fade into the shadow. But then, we might not get a color refraction. Maybe a little hint of one. But more importantly, I think we would get a pretty strong reflection. Coming off of the gold highlight, right? So that might be more noticeable. Just a hair. This day is yours, 'cause you showed you let Maria go. Nothing but peace. Maria. Think about how long it's taking us to finish Hades. Could you imagine if we actually tried to play a JRPG on stream? We'd never finish it. Though I've been hearing about a game that came out recently called Blueprints. That seems to be getting a pretty positive response. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that it gives sort of Outer Wilds vibes. Not exactly the same game, doesn't play the same, but a similar sort of like, I think, sort of like exploration and puzzle solving and discovery type of experience. So that might be fun. That could be something that we put on our radar for later. Because I really liked Outer Wilds. There's definitely a couple spots where I got stuck. But definitely enjoyed it. Okay, and then let's go in here. I think what we're going to want to do, increase the saturation a little bit and warm up the shadows slightly. Or even significantly, we'll see. For the skin tones. That feels about right there. How many times did I just say right? I feel like it was 4. It was more than I should have. Let's see. Oh. Different change of pace again, but this is a fun song. Grab the reference, make sure I'm sort of getting the depiction here correctly. There we go. That's a bit better. Las grids soon. There we go. I really wish there was a way that I could like try out computers and such, right? You could like just rent one and see how it feels, how it performs, if it's gonna be something that you like. And then if you decide you do like it, you can go buy one. I feel like with my current plan, my best bet, if you will, is essentially to like buy a machine and trial run it and see if it's going to be something, if it's going to do what I want in like the 2 weeks before I have to return it. If I'm happy with it, then I can keep it. And if I'm not, I gotta box it back up and take it back to the store and everything. It's like, ah. It's like, I can, but I'd rather just have a way to trial run it. Oh, there's little green accents on here. We'll try and get those in later. There we go. I do feel like we're still missing a little bit of warmth from it, but we can always kind of layer that in a bit more deliberately. Don't necessarily need to try and get all of that exactly right in the prep if it's not going to cooperate with us anyway. Right, shit. Actually, we have the cloth layer in here that we need to abide by before we start fucking it up with brown tone. I almost forgot that. There we go. There we go. Okay, and then, yeah, that's gonna have a couple of color layers, color stripings that we can do through there, but we'll worry about that later. I do want to bounce a little bit of the skin tone in here. Maybe darken it a bit just to sort of reflect the environment it's in. Yeah. Good. Try not to get too lost in the minutiae yet, right? I realize I'm just completely wiping out the sketching of the laces. It's fine. Not really important. We'll clean it up. We'll clean it up later. I didn't want them anyway. This guy's that skin tone gradient is feeling pretty good. Pretty happy with that, where that's at. I definitely want to get some highlight in here. It's a little bit lacking in that department, but you know, that's an easy add. London, thousand clouds we swept and we leveled, red cheek shots and songs in the flicker of the gaslight. Eager light heapers from the cobblestones. Okay, got a bit of a tangent. 1 second. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Got a bit of a tangent going on with the shirt here. So I'm just gonna lighten that up and bring that around like that. I think that cleans it up pretty nicely. Okay, I feel like we got sort of the chest and neck area, collar area cleaned up pretty nicely. And we'll spend some time on the face because I know we could be here forever. So let's go ahead and get started with it. Birds and dames that served in the chapels on a Sunday, all quiet now, the mouths are stopped up on mud. They lie long in rags and make no sound. And where am I starting with this? I don't know. I'm just kind of picking random spots and going based on what I notice and what my mood is like. It's all very arbitrary, really. It's all vibes. Those who fought for something better, those who taught by how they did, loved ones taken life. Well, thanks, Tisha. Thank you for coming by and hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed the work. I hope you have a really good Friday and a really good start to your weekend. And I'll see you next time. Everyone say goodnight. It took a second for OBS to load up the emote, so for like 10 seconds it just said have a. Okay. What are we doing? Hero comes okay, I'm gonna change my mind on this for a second. Okay, I think I know what I want to do with you. There we go. Darkness has passed and the legend yet grows. Okay, I feel like this will work a bit better for us. Just be a bit easier to play with. Afinyoran fagra ursun silasan Tavakin ahim ura kundra. Gan usa son de valor ori ulan. Tavakin, nahasilas varin, urain, kul, mafera, kasva, afinyoran fagra, nasan silasan, Tavakin, ahim, ura, gundra. Oh, you know what we gotta listen to? What we gotta listen to tonight? Yeah, this one will do. I do feel like the Oblivion remaster is one of like the greatest examples in recent history of the developer just understood the assignment and executed it so well. Like all of the weirdness of Oblivion is still there in all of its jank, but is also like just improved upon, right? The game looks better, runs well, feels good. Well, mostly runs well. I've seen some people are having issues with it, which is unfortunately, I think, just kind of to be expected in this day and age. But the level that they've been able to execute it, the way that they were able to pull it off, which is like, yes, good, excellent. I'm not even a big Elder Scrolls fan, and even I'm like, oh, holy shit, this is awesome. Hey, Looney. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a good evening. Hope you're ready for the weekend. We're just working on another portrait tonight. We finished up the one we were doing on Tuesday. Just needed some finishing touches. And now we're already making some pretty good headway on the next one. How are you doing? I'm doing better. I was very stressed out earlier. Been kind of tired all day and just, I don't know, I had a feeling of like complete certainty that my computer was gonna have some sort of issue getting ready for the stream. I was very worried about it. But, you know, knock on wood, it has been okay so far this evening. And we're just gonna keep it going and see how it does. Before I did the memory test and the transfer, I did back up a lot of my files. I did back up stuff that I've been working on recently because I wasn't sure if the power supply change was going to go completely catastrophic and burn out my computer. So we do have everything backed up if things do go badly, but thankfully things seem to have been okay. The procedure was a success. Why don't you love who I am? What we could have been. I am your ghost, a fallen angel. You ripped out my part. Can't cause I was meant to be yours. There we go. Alright. Reference again. Okay. Makes sense. We're just gonna kind of shade this in with a nice evergreen tone. Right, get a little bit of volume popping into there. Not just flat objects, but actually have some depth and some dimension and some planar differences. I hope you know we had everything when you broke me and left these pieces. I want you to hurt like you hurt me today. Yeah. I can't sing anymore. I'm sorry. I should stop. It's not working. There you go. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I do think compared to, like, if we were to draw down the reference, it's a bit warmer, right? It's a little bit warmer, but I feel like we're kind of going for like an outdoor summery lighting. So it's gonna be a bit warmer. And I think that's okay. We're gonna listen to this song, but I just thought of one that would be really fitting for what we're doing, what the tone is. You're out of time, make your move, live a dark while it's late. Time, there's no turning back. Cause the world is on fire. Thank you. The guns for hire. With your blood. Okay, I think we're getting a really nice like setup going. We're getting some nice gradients for sort of, you know, describing the shapes, especially the shapes of the hair as they like wrap over the head. Getting some nice like breakup of the different sections, getting some cool layering effect. So good start. Good start to this one. Now we just need to carry it through to the end. Which, yeah, I'll definitely be able to do that, right? Right? Just complete the rest of the drawing without fucking up. Easy. I think I made the ear a bit too long there. Little bit. There we go. That's a bit better. Might still be a bit too long, but you know what? It's okay. You can fine-tune it later. Fine-tune later. Block out now. You shape it this right? I am. More or less. Okay, yeah, so this part is recessed and darker. And then sort of the scoop of the air on the inside is more the same tone. Yeah, okay, cool. And then this part will be darker. Might add a hint of green in there just to sort of reflect the hair coming across it. Kind of carry that over into here, which then gives way to the more natural tones as it curves. It's not quite right. Shape curves a bit more. Forms a bit more of a cup. That's a bit better. Cool. And I think the other one gonna be not lazy, but simpler, right? Not be quite so judicious just because it's more of a supporting detail. And we don't need this here to be quite as like delicately rendered. Yeah, there we go. 1 second to pour some more tea. Good enough. Okay. Yeah. Their hands sometimes run in circles and in drops, and so the journey of the night is up. It's a random question, but does anyone know how to speak Gaelic? Can't say I do. It was kind of a long shot, but I just thought I'd ask. Might discover something new about a chatter. Something will hit the bullseye. Yeah? Metaphorically good advice. Clear notifications so server removed immediately got pinged. See, that's why I never bother to clear out my notifications, because at most, the red dot will go away for maybe an hour. And I'm just like, it's not worth it. I've just learned to live with the red ping. It means nothing to me anymore. Every server has pings, every server has white dots. It's just like, fuck it, I don't care. The only ones where the white dot actually means anything is like small servers of friend groups where you don't have like 24 people just chatting about stuff. Damn you, Pavlov! There we go. I really like how this one's coming along. I also set myself up for a bit of a challenge here because I'm working with a lot of green, and green is notoriously kind of a hard color tone, hard color range to get to play nice with things. So it's kind of a challenge run, but I feel like we're getting something interesting out of it. I feel like a lot of times when people want to do, want to work with green, they kind of cheat and move into the yellow or blue and cyan ranges. They don't really stay in green just because it's so fussy. Lights on, nobody. Look, you were in a meditative fugue state. It's fine. Sometimes you just gotta have a little out of body, you know? That would be the greatest out of office message. Like, I'm currently disassociating from all physical existence. Please check back tomorrow. The lights are on, but no one is home. Please leave a message. We will get back to you at the next possible corporeal moment. Here's a sign. Sounds good, mage. I hope you get some very good rest. I hope you have a really good start to the weekend. I'll see you next time. Everyone say goodnight. What time are we at? We got about an hour or so left to go before I think it's time to call it ourselves. got a bit of a tangent here that I think what I actually want to do is break it by bringing the knuckle out rather than in. Right? Have that be a little bit of a silhouette break against the hair. I like that more than trying to frame it. I think that's prettier. More interesting. Praying nothing goes wrong second D&D. I hope so, Mage. I hope you get to have some fun D&D with your friends. Take a night off to yourself. I'm gonna save. There we go. Let me double check. Can't really see the shape of the leaves here. I think they're just maples. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna listen to this one. I think I have a soundtrack to put on that'll sort of play us out for the night. Look it up while we're listening to this. Oh, that's a long soundtrack. All right, well, that'll work. Nice. Cool. I have been generally quite pleased with the turnaround time on these. Like, even some of them, you know, hit a couple of road bumps and slowed down a little bit, but, you know, compared to the normal drawings, I feel like we're still able to get through these very, you know, effectively, very assuredly. I'm quite happy about that. Okay, I'm just gonna cheat of sorts and pull up. I guess technically she doesn't have black eyelashes, they're like very dark red. Fine, no black. No pure black. They're quite thick. There we go. Remember, chat, no spoiling. No spoiling until we're ready to give it. Keep it all. It's not a, you know, top secret or anything, but I saved the surprise. was pretty good. I like where that's going. I don't want to get too detailed or committal with the eyelashes just because we gotta do the rest of the eyes still. And we're definitely gonna mess them up in the process, right? So it's worth like kind of doing a pass just to see what it looks and feels like, but we're gonna leave the really fine detailing of the lashes until later. Okay, I like that. However, comma, I want to do something. I'm gonna take this eye, because I feel like the eyes are a little bit not aligned to each other right now. So we're just gonna take this and drag it over a little bit like that. Right? Like, compare that to where it was before, right? I feel like the focal point, the focus of the eye is much better. Maybe back a teensy bit. That feels better. I think that feels better. Alright, let's go ahead and put this on. No, don't do that. Let's actually cool this off. Try and get some of that summer, late spring light color. That like light through the trees tone, right? What color are this? Not the celery, the border boundary of the eye. They pick up more of that like rich blue tone. So we'll grab like that. And that has come in like this. We do need to add the eyelashes to the bottom, but that's an easy touch. That's an easy fix. Later. Later. Good. Okay. I think we'll want to add a little bit of breakup and distinguishment to the iris. Somewhat, but not too worried with it just yet, right? A little bit more texture. Hey, good morning, Jack. How are you doing? Are you ready for the weekend? We're just getting some progress in on the newest portrait. Honestly, it's been going very quickly. We only started it like not 2 hours ago. This one has been very speedy indeed. Being very sort of all over the place right now, right? Just kind of bouncing up and down the drawing, trying to sort of cover as many bases as I can. There we go. Yeah, we're making good time. We're making substantial progress. And so far, nothing has exploded yet. I feel like I'm tempting fate every time I say that. Should probably stop. Okay, so what I want to do here, like I said, we didn't do a highlight pass, right? To sort of set ourselves up, but what I'm gonna do is we're gonna yellow this out a little bit and we're gonna lighten it and create sort of a highlight band across the top here. We don't have, okay, so sort of the frickin', yeah, okay. So I think the sort of seam of the bracer would be right along here, give or take. So sort of have that like contrasty point right there. And the highest, brightest point would be right through there, more or less, and then kind of fade off. So I want to pull the forearm, sort of using this highlight tone more into the foreground, and then we can knock back the shoulder pads a little bit into the background, just to help create a layering, right? Because right now it's all kind of getting a very similar treatment to each other, which makes the depth of the character harder to read. Yep. There. That's pretty good. Or it's at least a good start, right? We can do more from there. There we go. Just kind of knock this back in general, right? So we'll have a nice little, like, fully lit gold highlight along the band here, but for the most part it's going to be very knocked low. And I think we're going to have to do sort of a similar thing over here, right? Knocking this sort of part of the collar? I'm not quite sure what you would call this. Down so that it sits more visibly behind the arm. It doesn't draw as much attention. Get rid of some of the slight red tone or green tone in the skin here. I think this is a big part of why green isn't that popular to paint with, right? It just doesn't play well with pretty much any other color. Okay. Okay, getting somewhere. Definitely getting somewhere. This is going to be a tight little area to get the exact shaping sitting the way we want it to. I think it's going to be a lot of careful back and forth. I keep putting hands in the drawings. I got away with Mookie's not having any hands, and I feel like most of the other ones I have in mind have at least one hand involved. Yeah, I need the practice, so fuck it. 1 second. There we go. I know I've said how much I'm obsessed about this. I was talking about, the prospect of playing a JRPG on stream and how long that would take us and everything. To sort of say, like, we're probably not going to do that. If Final Fantasy IX Remastered happens, we're playing that on stream. 100%. We will find a way. We will make the time for that to happen. That is the exception. There we go. Let's come in here with some of these darker shadows. Sort of back up the... There we go. We'll clean it up as we progress, right? But mostly just sort of looking to separate some of the elements and get them to read clearly from one another. I'm going to drop down this sort of seam along the shoulder line, right? Doesn't need to be that dark, that intense. It's definitely a point where the cloth is like bunching up very heavily, but it doesn't need to be relatively black compared to the surrounding elements. There we go. See, it just feels generally like softer, a little more diffuse. It's got more scatter through it. JRPGs aren't that long, just say 2026 is your JRPG year. Yeah, we might complete half of one. Maybe 2/3 if we nast. So when I beat the original Final Fantasy IX, and I did not 100% it, right? I did not do everything. I didn't do all the secret bosses and whatnot. I don't think I ever saw... I never saw Ozma. I don't think I even, like, started on that route, right? But, you know, solid playthrough of the majority of the content. My recollection is it took me about 42 hours to beat the game. Which, you know, at our normal rate of about 3.5 hours a week would be about 17 weeks. 17 to 19 weeks. I feel like we would be slower. I think generally you play a game slower on stream than you play it in your own time. So just add 6 weeks in there for a buffer. So yeah, we're looking at like half a year to finish it. And that would be the original Final Fantasy IX. That would not include any changes that a modern remake would involve. So it could be longer. I will say this, and this is an interesting sort of thing to consider, right? Final Fantasy IX was very, very stylized, right? It was extremely cartoonish in a very charming way. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think, was fairly sort of straightforward in its visual direction because, like, Final Fantasy VII has a lot of aesthetic. It has a lot of aesthetic, but its rendering style has always been, shall we say, anime real, right? Not photorealistic, but that kind of like realism with that anime personality, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm sure when they were making the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there was still a lot of considerations of like, okay, how exactly do we want the characters to look? And you know, what details do we want to include, and this, that, and the other, and how do we want to do this, and how do we want to do that? But you know, it's like, okay, just add a ton of PBR materials and make the characters just look really good. I feel like even if they did, you know, Final Fantasy VIII or Final Fantasy X remakes, remasters, it's generally the same marching order, right? Final Fantasy IX, I feel like they would have to be a lot more considerate of the aesthetic decisions of the game, the visual direction, making sure that that sort of fantastic whimsy is maintained. Because just saying, we'll make it look realistic. You know, get that those high fidelity materials. It's very loud outside. I hope you guys don't hear that. Um, I feel like just sort of going that route would not work for Final Fantasy IX. So I'd be very interested to see sort of how they choose to approach that, if they decide to. It's certainly not an insurmountable problem or anything, right? But it would need to be very deliberately handled. You can't slapdash it. I'm just adding early implementations of breakup to the hair, right? Got a lot still that I want to do to sort of like layer it and distinguish it and all that, but we're going to start here and see how it goes. There we go. Okay. This is making me want to watch Free Rin again. What a beautiful show. What a simply gorgeous show. There we go. Okay, and then we'll kind of do the same thing over here. The parts of the ribbon that are shadowed, shaded by the leaf. A beautiful show, best seen without any audio if you know German. It's fine. It's fine. Look, they're doing they're doing their best. They're doing their best. I'm not gonna pretend that I would do any better. I would try. I would probably fuck up, but I would try. I will ask, just because It has to. Maybe it's a German thing. Stark is always pronounced by the characters as Stark. Like, right? Like it's SH, not S. Is there a reason for that? Because it's not some weird, like, Japanese pronunciation thing. The only, like, impure Japanese pronunciation, she, is the only one where the S gets a phonetic H attached to it to use English conventions, right? It's sa, shi, su, se, so. But all the other S's are fine, so they could have gone Stark. But they very deliberately seem to call that out, which makes me think there's a reason for it. So again, maybe they're trying. They're trying. They might not be doing a great job, but there is an effort. You know, for the sake of fairness. Yes, I'm sure you could get language coaches in to help with pronunciations. I know, one of the in Star Wars The Acolyte, that High Republic show from a few months back, which I actually thought was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Shoot, what was his name? The Jedi Master. Saul. I'm blanking on the name of the actor, but he was the lead actor in Squid Game. And he does not speak English. At this point, he might speak a little bit, but he is not a fluent English speaker. And so he spent a very long time. Like, they came to him and was like, we would like you to play this role in the Star Wars project. And he was like, are you sure? But he spent a very long time, like, training with language coaches to be able to deliver his lines and memorize them. German fuckery, the ST is pronounced like sht. Still sounds like half the people never heard or spoke a bit of German. They probably didn't. They probably did not. I don't know. Like I said, they could probably, they probably could, to some degree, bring in language coaches, bring in people to help train up the voice actors on proper pronunciations and everything. And it would probably work okay. I think if the audience starts to have trouble understanding, then you kind of defeat the purpose, right? I don't know. It's all a balancing act. There was a really great, there's a YouTube channel that I watch. Or a series of YouTube channels that does like news headlines and news articles and whatnot. And their EU channel a few weeks ago hit 1 million subscribers, and so they did a thank you video in all, I believe it's 24 languages of the EU. So they very briefly did a little bit of practice before, doing the video. Trying to get a little bit of practice in on pronunciation, everything. But the YouTube comments were like, well, this was wonderfully awful, but I appreciate the effort. Good effort. Thank you. So many actors when I hear their real voice in interviews. True. Yes. I don't know. I'm not going to give him a hard time for trying, or, delivering I don't even know how I would say it. 日本語でドイツ語。I do get that it sounds weird, that it feels weird, but I need to separate this a little bit. It's kind of blending together in a way that I don't quite want. But we'll get there. Besides, if you turn all the audio off, then you miss the excellent music. You don't want that. There we go. Excuse me. Keep going a little bit longer. Oh, see, look at this. We're like completely losing the definition of the forearm versus the collar. Gotta come in and separate those off from each other again. She does have that little bracelet that we should probably make the effort to include. Wait, does this? Yeah, it does go all the way up to the wrist. Or it falls just shy enough for there to be room for the collar. Not the collar, the bracelet. So you might walk it back just a hair. There we go. One thing I will need to figure out, I'm still not sure how I want to deal with it. So yeah, if I do set up a dual box stream setup, I'm only going to be getting capture data from a single source, right? A single monitor, which is not what I have set up on my computer right now. I have 4, including the tablet display, right? Which is why I do all of my artwork on. But it is typically not the screen that I put my games on. So I would either put the tablet display through the capture input and then just play all my games on that so that I'm not having to swap, or I would need to figure out how to have multiple inputs that I could switch between. Could I use a switch that way? No. No, I don't think that would work. No. No, I don't think it would work. So I don't know. It's not a major concern, and you know, tablet display is good. So if I do start playing games on there, it's like, all right, fine, whatever. But it would potentially be a little bit weird. It's just another part of the puzzle to work through. I feel like the puzzle is constantly, like every time I look at it, the puzzle gets more complicated. I would like the puzzle to calm down a bit. Okay. I'm not going to worry too much about this hand right now, just because we've got like 20 minutes left, and that's going to take up 100% of it if we start. So we'll save it for next time. Here we go. Okay. I actually, I did this a little bit wrong. The shape is not quite so like sunsetted. It's much rounder. Can see a lot more of it. But then, maybe not quite so retracted because we don't see as much at the bottom of the iris. So yeah, maybe something like that. Just kind of tuck the corner a bit. That's a bit better. We're just gonna get rid of these for now. I'll leave the moles in place, but the eyelashes we're just gonna we'll fuss with at a later date. Okay. That was weird. Okay, got a little bit of weirdness in here that we'll have to do a finer job cleaning up, but we can kind of just go in and do a pass right now. There you go. Okay. And this can come down like so. You can come down like this. And just kind of clean up the shape in here, right? Yeah, I think Ivy's model doesn't really have a super clear or distinct collarbone, which I always like having. I like those landmarks. I like rendering them. So I think we'll cheat it a little bit. We'll just kind of come in and like not do that. Kindly don't do that. We'll just kind of lighten up the tips of the collarbone right there. Just a hair, right? Grab the pit a little bit. Okay, and then, yeah, that's probably okay. I think I'm just gonna do this. We're just gonna add a little bit of a slant to this one, just to try and get that plane of the chest, plane of the collar, feeling a little bit more dimensional. Something like that. There we go. There we go. Yeah, we can pull some of this down along here as well, just to give a little bit warmer of a shadow through that region. Definitely want to clean up the shape and everything too, but we can get more in depth into that later. Excuse me. 100 addicted to a game again. With Balacho this time, it's Nubby's Number Factory. Pego and Balacho with an early 2000 screensaver. Oh my god. Yeah, I never got Balacho. Like I never bought it. I get why it's popular. I see it. But I think that's part of why I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it. Nubby's Number Factory. Well, I hope you have fun with it. I hope it is kind to you. There we go. Just a little bit of that like bunching fabric underneath the strap, right? Navi is a cruel god. Just like Tetraces. God of blocks, weaver of fate. There we go. All right. What else can we hit up tonight? Sort of like general last little bits of polish or cleanup. We've got this section of the hair. I kind of just want to leave it till next time. I suppose we could do like a general sort of fill in, right? Just to get it going, get thinking about it. Right, so that can kind of go like that. Just to help sort of explain the overlap plan. There we go. Let's just knock that out back there really quickly. We don't really need it anymore, right? And I think we'll knock out some of these guys too. Yeah, there we go. Is there something along here? No. Okay, cool. I feel like that's a good stopping place for tonight. We got a lot done today. We finished up this one. We got all the way through the sketch, got all the way through the block out, and got pretty well into the painting process for this. All in under 4 hours. So, I don't know if we're gonna finish it on Saturday. Feels a little overly ambitious. But we're gonna, I think we'll get a good ways along with it. Thank you for that. I saw there was a steak in there. God, I could go for a steak. I'm probably gonna get a hamburger tomorrow. That's my plan. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I was very stressed out before the stream started. I don't know why. I don't know specifically what it was. I think it's just, you know, with a lot of the computer problems I've been having, my biggest fear with any of it is that it's going to impact the stream, right? It's going to impact what we are able to do, or even just whether we can have a stream, right, on a given day. So, you know, we've got a fix in place. It's going to take a while to see if it actually is the fix that we needed, or if it's just another band-aid. But, you know, I'm glad that we were able to at least have the stream, that nothing went wrong. And then we got to hang out. It always means a lot to me. It always puts me in a better mood, getting to spend time with you guys. So thank you for being here, and thank you for hanging out and chilling and chatting while we worked on art and everything. Saturday, more Hades. I honestly don't know how close we are at this point. One thing that I liked about Pyre was there is a very sort of real sense of things starting to accelerate towards the end, right? Yes, for today's Schrodinger's computer lives. Tomorrow we'll see. Whereas with Hades, it's like I know from the Book of Fates that there is something ahead, but I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. So we'll see. We shall see. But that's for Saturday. That's for Saturday. Excuse me, to figure out. For tonight, we gotta figure out who we're gonna raid. Also, I'm gonna go ahead and shut down the YouTube VOD. Everyone say bye-bye, YouTube. Let's see. Who is online tonight? I feel like we should have a good gathering of folks that we can check in with.